Yeah, what is, so n8n, many of you, I'm kind of curious, so there's three main players, I would say, in the space. We have a couple, like Microsoft has Power Automate, you know, you have fourth, fifth choices, but Zapier, a lot of people hear Zapier all the time. Make is the other big player, and n8n, those are probably, I would think they're the top three choices for automation. So basically they connect a whole bunch of inputs with a whole bunch of outputs, and you can do a whole bunch of manipulate things, dream up almost anything that you want and work with it. So maybe before I get going, I'm kind of curious, any of those ones has, how much have people used those so far? I want to see, Lori, you might be talking, but you're on mute.
Yeah. Yeah, hi.
Okay.
I remember in the beginning of the Learning Lab, they were teaching us Zapier, and I kind of lost it then. So that's one of the reasons I'm in here now, because I know have much more of a background now. So I want to figure out how to start automating some of the things I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. And I downloaded it, and I can't download anything without trying it immediately. So I was watching one of Nate Hook's YouTube videos about what was I doing? Like create an agent to the agentic behavior, I should say, to send an email. So I've done that.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, yeah, we'll have fun with that. So one of the first questions that always comes up is the pricing. And Zapier and Make both have a free plan that can get you a little bit, but you bump into a limit pretty quick. So if you want to do much, one of the nice things about n8n, there's a few things I like about it. One is if you do a lot, it's way more affordable. So you don't really have to worry about the amount of transactions. Everything that you're doing, there's just, yeah, the base price will get you a lot, but you will have to pay for just that first part. So I do encourage, if we're doing this together, if you haven't already, sign up for a free 14-day trial or a full account if you want. And in fact, let me show my screen and we can look at this together. So just kind of get the high overview on what you're going to need. So if we do n8n and .io, and if we look at pricing, and this first basic plan will do a lot. So if you switch to monthly, let's say you don't want to make an annual decision, $24 a month, and you get 2.5 thousand workflow executions and pretty well everything that you need. So that works really good. But you'll hear some other names, Zapier, Make, they're also good options out there too. It's very similar concepts, but they have just a different interface to learn and such. So, okay. So with that said, let's just kind of see what can we do with this. And let me show you maybe a good example of what I can show is what I've done myself and give you kind of an end goal of a possibility. So a company I've co-founded, been working on the last year and a half is called Kitchen Copilot, which gives the opportunity for meal planning, recipe discovery, and so you'd be able to find various different recipes, create a meal plan, and cooking. There's a lot of things that are built around this. And a lot of things also is you can import, even take a picture of a recipe and things like that. But one of the options is from email. So the opportunity here is we'll send an email to an email address, recipes@kitchencopilot.com, and just include a few things like a title, email body, a photo, various different things, and that needs to automatically import into the app, and then you can use that and add to your meal plan or store for historical reasons, so you have that recipe handy. And so n8n was a great tool to be able to do that. So let's just run through this once. See it here, we see my screen. Okay, so if I send in an email to recipes@kitchencopilot.com, subject can be anything. And actually in my case, I have a couple, let's go to, here I'll just do attach a file from, well here, I'll do Grandma Claire's cherry cheesecake and then the photo for it. Here I'll show you what they are. So one of them is a handwritten recipe like this. I want to be able to parse all of that and add it. And the second is a photograph of it. And so I want to take both of those two things. And that's all I need. I'm going to hit send. And it'll take about a minute. And you'll see why. So we'll let that run in the background, and I'll show you everything that's involved. Now, this is going to be a bit more than we'll do today, but it shows an example of the possibility. And so here is this, the prod workflow email to recipe. There's actually two parts. Let's just jump right into the workflow, and I'll show you while I'm waiting for that minute or so for that to import. Here's an example of what it's doing. So it basically receives the email. It takes the body of that email, and you can see the nice thing about n8n is you just kind of flow whatever you feel like doing. You're just kind of piecing together a whole bunch of next steps, including, you can see over here, even decision, true, false, or up here, the amount of attachments. This branches into 5 different choices, depending on the attachment. That's actually kind of a limitation. I wasn't successful in finding the best way to have an unknown amount of attachments, but this shows the example of a switch. So, and as we do some of these together, we'll see some examples of what further things we can do. But you can see it can take the body of the email, it can mark the email as read. Then I go to my database account and I get the user's profile. So this is meant for a production. So it says based on the person's reply address, and I won't spend too much time on all of this, I'm just kind of giving the general overview. But based on the reply address, let's find out their account, confirm that it exists. If it doesn't, I can send off to an email that's way over here saying your account doesn't exist. And we move along this workflow, and then we can even do some REST API calls. So I take those pictures, I have my own REST endpoint, which is another whole subject, but it goes, parses it, and gets back that recipe, saves it to the database, saves it to the person's account, and sends an email. And okay, so that's the general workflow. You can see here, by the way, the email has arrived. We have received and added your new recipe in the for importing cookbook. It's a cherry tart cake. And so let's see how that works. So this is my screen now. And if I go into my cookbooks, the one called for importing, and here it is right there. You can see the cherry tart cake. And that's now been fully, from that handwritten message, we're able to import that in, and we have the ingredients and the instructions, very simple instructions, and the photograph, and everything's been figured out. So that's an example of an end-to-end workflow of one thing that can do with n8n. So let me stop there for a minute. Any questions, comments?
I'd like the recipe, please.
Okay. Yeah, it does look really good, doesn't it? By the way, feel free. Sign up for Kitchen Copilot. I'll
Yes.
friend you and share it with you. I actually can do that. That's one of our purposes. Yeah. Okay, amazing. So that gets you an idea of what to do. But this is a bit more complex. But really, as you do the steps one at a time, it's very, very doable. But let's show n8n a couple concepts, and then let's plan what we want to do today, and then we can work on some things together. So in here, you can see there's a number of different workflows I have. I'm a fairly new user to n8n, so I have less than a dozen different things here. In fact, these top 2 are just me warming back up again today and getting used to it. So, but the main thing you have is a concept of the workflow. That's the main dashboard where we're going to do our work. Then you're going to have credentials. This is because you're interfacing with a whole bunch of different things. You can see examples, my Gmail account, my Outlook account, Cloud Convert. There's another Outlook account, Notion, Google Drive. All of these are different things that you integrate with. So the credentials would be important just to keep organized. And then the executions is almost like your log, and we'll get into this later on. n8n does a great job of logging, and you'll see some powerful tools available on what they do. So that's kind of the essence of it. There you can add, you can add projects and do some more advanced things, but this is the core of it. So Kevin.
Could you expound a little bit on credentials? Maybe because I'm such a neophyte, I can't quite grasp that connection.
Yeah, it's actually really good question. And so what happens in these three tools, like n8n, is it becomes the hub, the middle of a whole bunch of different other systems. In our case, let's say we walk through something today. We're going to send an email, do something with that email, and send it back to ourselves, if that's what we're going to do today. n8n has to have permission granted to your email account. And it is a high trust. We have to trust it's an important company that we trust isn't going to abuse it. And we can revoke those permissions at any time, but that's what it is. So the credentials is basically your permissions are granted to n8n to do stuff on your behalf.
That's helpful.
And there are different types. You can see this one here, Outlook is OAuth 2. It doesn't actually know your username and password, but it's granted a token that's kind of equivalent to a username and password that you can turn off later on, but at least your password doesn't have to get seen by them. Whereas you can see the Gmail account uses a little bit, actually, some of them use a different method than OAuth, but we'll see when we get to those. Each have their own story on how to connect to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a really good question. So with that said, let's start a workflow and let's use the workflow itself to brainstorm what we're going to do today. So I'm going to create a new workflow, and up here you have, you can create a new workflow or create a new credential with the drop-down arrow. So create a workflow. And well, let me do one thing first, because I think this would be useful, is over here on the left-hand side, you can see the templates. And in the templates, there's a store of, well, it looks like 1,600 workflow automation templates. And other people have created and shared these starting points with us. So for example, well, here's some lessons at the top part. Let's skip past them. But conversing with data, transforming text into SQL queries and visual curves, or chat with the PostgreSQL database, or extract internal links from a web page. So there's tons of different things if we want to go through Google Drive, duplicate file manager, and things like that. So these are some examples, and you can, in fact, let's just click on one at random. And for some reason, that gave a 404 on that one. Let's try again though. And templates, and I'll just pick another random one here. No, something's going on right now. I'm not sure what that is on their side, but you got the idea. But we're going to start with a fresh canvas. So Vibe Cinema. So the only use case I can get my head around is taking some short story I write in my Google Docs, send it to 11 labs to convert the audiobook, and drop that audiobook back into my doc for making a video. Can n8n do that? Absolutely. That's a perfect case for that. Yep. And actually, the more you work with this, the more ideas you'll start to see. So let's go ahead. I'm going to start with the first step, and I'm kind of cheating. I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to use OneNote. What I have here is what's called, a trigger to get started. But I'm going to use a set. You'll see in a second. Don't worry too much what I'm doing. But what we want to do today is, let's say, check for a new email. So what I've done is, and now here's the workflow that we're going to do today. I'm not actually doing it. I'm just using this as a brainstorming tool. And then feedback from you, if I'm going to do set again. What do we want to do with that? Let's say we can go to AI and do anything. We can classify it. We can summarize it. We can start with some wording and create a blog post. If we had enough time today, we could take like convert to an audio book. We can, all kinds of things. But let's just talk about text only due to the time we have. What's an example?
I was trying to identify emails that have invoice or receipt in the subject line.
Mm.
And so it could like ping me to remind me to put it into QuickBooks.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Great idea. Okay. And I wonder if they have integration with QuickBooks. There's
They
a possibility.
do, but yeah, they don't have. But I have QuickBooks. What is it? Whatever, solopreneur kind of thing, and it doesn't it doesn't interface with that. It is just like the main big QuickBooks thing. So
Okay, got it. And they might open up to some of those more later on too. Okay, so that's one. And actually, we can branch this a little bit. Let's add a second one, and we'll move this around a bit. What's a second example of something we'll do? How about write a blog post? We'll start a draft and let it finish a blog post for us.
that's a good one.
Okay. Okay, good. And then let's just move this over here. We'll get used to this pretty soon. And then let's send an email. Back again. Okay. And then maybe both of these can send that email back again. Does this look like a workflow for today? Is there anything else we want to do today?
Quiet bunch.
Yeah.
We'll follow your lead.
The nice thing about this is once we have the foundation, then it's really easy to add more and more. We're not setting ourselves, locked in stone. So, okay, good. So, do we want to do this, but everyone together? So
Nice.
Everyone on their own computers, we can do the same thing?
I'm following along here. I don't know if anyone else is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow along. I'm having difficulty doing that, coordinating my computer and my iPhone so I can see this. What if there was the example I was kind of thinking of was like, say, apartments.com. And maybe there's some equivalent to that with recipes, so I don't take it too far afield, but is there some way that we can also link into this other body of information that might maybe have a list of the recipes, or is that already being done in the process you're set up?
Right. A good question. Now, did you say apartments.com as an example?
Yeah, as an example.
Right. Yeah. So, and there might be a couple ways. Either the website, if we talk about apartments.com, they might have a REST endpoint, and we'll see and we can even check that in this REST endpoint. If it does, that data might be publicly available for us. Yeah. Restaurants.com has an API, and so that would be a great use case. You could take some words that you're querying, go against the apartments.com data, get the result, and do something with it. Absolutely. And I don't know what their pricing is, if you have to sign up for an account or not. Do you have an apartments.com account already, I assume?
I was working with my daughter-in-law, and one of her questions to me was if she had a way for a phone call to come into apartments.com. She manages apartments, and that if she could get a call that came into, say, apartments.com, person's looking for information on an apartment, so they get her info. So then an email, a chat, a text, or an email goes to her, and then she has to go through their database and try to find information so she can send it back to the person, and also invite them in, find a convenient time for an appointment for them to come see this.
Yeah, this would be an amazing, so this is something that n8n could do very well. So let's say an email comes into one address. Based on that email, you extract what the intent is, and which apartments are people looking into, make the API call, get the answer back, and then even go against the calendar and look for an available time and reply back either as a draft so a human can review it, or you could almost even go directly back to the user with a reply and says, hey, I found some information for you. I'd love to talk to you. Approve any of these 5 meeting times.
that would be a tremendous time saver for her in terms of the automation. That would be a great to me. So that's kind of where my head was at.
Right. Okay. Well, let's lay the foundation on because some of these things will probably take 2 or 3, 4 hours by the time you sit down and move through it. Let's lay the foundation of an incoming email, interfacing with AI, making a decision, and an outgoing email, and then that will set us up to be able to hook in to something like this anywhere in that workflow.
Okay.
How does that sound? Okay. Yeah, that's a perfect. I mean, that's exactly what a tool like this is for.
I tried. I tried gaining some grasp of Zapier to do that, but it got so complicated in terms of the Airtables and all the other stuff. That's why I thought this. When I saw that example of what n8n, what this program can do, I thought, well, that just seemed like a whole lot of simpler process. But maybe that's because of my lack of knowledge.
This gets way easier nowadays versus in the past, and but there's still a certain amount of moving parts. And n8n and Zapier are kind of comparable. They have their own pros and cons, but hopefully after seeing this, it will be easier to visualize what it can do. So let's do this. If we go to, so I'm not going to, well, I can save this and I'll just call this brainstorming. So and then let's start a new one though with everyone. So if everyone can, if you start in your overview and do a create workflow, everyone does the same thing as me, and you should have a blank canvas like this. So holler if I'm ahead of you, or is that, I'll wait, especially for the first couple steps to make sure everyone is there. Lori, I see a couple of the pictures. Okay, good. Jackie, we got a thumbs up on that. That's great. Okay. Todd. Should I wait for anyone, or is that?
That's fine with me. Mine won't show up to you because I have my computer. I'm on the program, and then I'm on Google Meet on my phone.
Okay. Got it. So we'll see. Okay. Hopefully it works well for you. So this first step is what's called a trigger. That's the incoming flow. Everything after that is going to be what happens next in the workflow. So an event. So the first thing is a trigger, and you can test it with a manual. You can actually set this up as a chatbot. You can, instead of using an incoming email, you make this your own custom chatbot that would have apartment.com interfacing or whatever. And so a lot of things, but in our case, I'm going to just search for the word, or you can just say email. You can see our choices. And so any of you can use your favorite email. Probably your best two choices would be Gmail and Outlook would be the easiest, but it does support IMAP generic ones. So do that. I assume almost everyone has a Gmail account nowadays for one way or other. So notice, because this is our first step, it has triggers shown on message received, and it has a bunch of actions, but we're not going to do the actions yet. This is a trigger. It's the first part of it. So there's only one choice on message received. So click on that. And now, because I've already set one up, you should have something here at the top that wants you to hook up to your Gmail account, something like this. And so you'll get a chance to sign in with Gmail. And you know what, I just remembered, it's actually fairly common. There's a few moving parts for this next step. Can someone, if you're there, what do you see when you get to this?
I have a panel that's showing Gmail trigger, and then credential to connect, poll times, add blah, blah.
Okay. Huh. If that's different than mine. That's before you set up your, well, here, let's do that. Can we see someone else's screen then? Because mine's already been, I've started something. And so we get someone with a fresh slate. Is that you, Kevin, or someone else who can share theirs easy enough? Any volunteers?
I'm in the same position as you. Mine's already configured. So.
Oh, yours already configured. Okay. If I do create new, do you see something similar to this, Kevin, or what do you see?
Well, I'm not, somehow I got out of this panel that came up on my start page. I just have Gmail trigger and
Okay.
and a thing that talks about test workflow.
Okay. See if you see. So, Vibe says, you have sign in with Google here, right? If you have that option, just do sign in with Google. You should get something like this. So you guys have that, and you have any of your Google accounts you've logged in, or log in if you haven't, and pick your account. And then, of course, I've already signed in. You should have around 3 sections of things that you're going to grant access to n8n to have permission to use your account. Is that you guys about where that is? Okay, Jackie's already configured. Desiree listening in from the phone. So, let me know if you guys have how you're making out on that far, or you guys already passed this stage.
I'm just choosing permissions. I always have a hard time with that.
Okay. Yeah. And then it has a little bit of a decision as to whether it's a 6-month or unlimited time frame. Do something like that. Okay. So hit continue. And this is that credentials we talked about at the beginning. It gives you, now you're hooked up to Gmail. In this case, it's called Gmail account 2. And now here's an interesting thing in n8n. One thing, the first time I used it, I was missing the OK button or the cancel or the next. And I found that kind of interesting. What you really do is just click outside of that area is really what you need to do. So it's always saved. There's no delay in saving, and just click into an open area. So, okay. So let me know, what's the right pace? Is everyone where I am?
I am.
Okay. Okay, good. So, okay, so now you have a few choices. Notice that it polls. It's not a push, it's a poll. So we'll see this mode as every minute. Or you can choose this for different times, but it actually doesn't use up your usages. So every minute's probably a good time to have. And it's watching for an event received. Now, here's an important part, is you can add a filter. And here we can do a search, because you might not want it to check every single example. Was it, Vicki, you were talking about an example of watching for, tell me again what that was. Oh, the invoice.
Mine was looking for emails that have either invoice or receipt in the subject line.
Okay, so it would be, so if we do subject invoice, now let's, I don't even know the syntax for this. So this is where we go to whatever your favorite LLM is. Pick one, and let's go to what is the syntax for the subject line for, I'll just say for n8n filtering on Gmail, and I want to have more than one. So for example, and this. So let's just find out the syntax. We don't have to look up the documentation like we did in the olden days, a year ago or 2 years ago. And so just a simple word or is that. So we're going to look for invoice or receipt or statement. Hey, great suggestion. They even added another one for us. So we'll go back here, and in this search, put whatever criteria you have. And in an example I did earlier today, I just did 2 n8n. So with no space in between, that's my trigger. So I can reuse my same email address. And if I have 2 n8n, it's going to do that workflow. And so do whatever you're going to decide that you're going to remember to do for the remainder of this exercise. And now,
Or it's to be uppercase.
actually, yeah, good question. There is, good question. Let's find out. So we find out how to make sure we turn it off, but I think we're okay. Now, Gmail specifically is case insensitive for a search like that. So that's what determines it. And okay, good. Now watch this. Here's where we start to learn some of the key things on the tool. and I'll show you this shortly. So yeah, Lori.
Yeah, I was wondering, my filter that I want to put in is just like to filter out all the political garbage. So have you run across that? You can give that a term. Have you searched what term that would be?
What I would probably do in that case is take all the emails, so I'll have almost no filter, and pass it to AI and let the AI do it.
Okay.
So you'd leave it open with almost no filter in that case.
Okay, I put unread emails and. Okay. Yeah.
Yep, perfect. Yep, I think that works well. All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, really good idea on that. Okay, so now if I do fetch test event, notice, well, there you go. I have a recent receipt from Framer. So we'll use that as a test. But if you don't have one, you're going to have to send yourself an email that qualifies so that you have this test. And now we get into the nice tooling here. See this pin up in the top right corner? I can, if I pin that, especially if that message gets deleted or anything as I'm working, this becomes my test message to use in all subsequent steps of the work we're doing right now.
That's handy.
Yeah, it becomes really handy, especially because ones that take a long time to set up that test. So, okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to move outside. We have the email trigger in place. And let's, so is everyone with me? You're good on that?
You might just want to say how to get out, because it took me, I didn't realize you have to click back to Canvas.
Okay, yeah. Yes, just click in the gray area anywhere. That's how I do it. Is there, yeah, kind of a weird UX way of doing it. So, okay, so then you should be back to the canvas here. I use a middle mouse click, drag, whichever you prefer for these type of interfaces. And so now we'll do a new plus, and now we can add our next action. And in this case, let's pass that message to AI to classify it. So now there's a lot, I'll search for the word AI. There's actually overwhelming amount of choices. So let's do OpenAI. So we can, and there's a lot of really good ones. You could use Grok, Claude, Grok with the Q, which is one for, yeah, you have the two different Groks there. Grok with the Q, you have OpenAI, Claude, I wonder where I find a good list, but lots to choose from. Most of the ones that you would be thinking of are going to be available there, DeepSeek and such. So, but for us, let's do OpenAI. And there's a lot of choices here. If you work with assistants, we can kind of skim that. If you haven't worked with assistants, ignore that. And you can analyze images, you can generate audio, you can delete files, a bunch of things that you can do. But the generic one in here is message a model. That's really the chat conversational part of this. So we'll message a model. And now we're going to have to branch off into another thing that might take some people a few minutes to set up. Is again, we're going to be interfacing with another tool, which is OpenAI. We need to set up an API key there, and then might have to use your credit card to do so. You know what I'll do though? Let me give you guys I'll give you an API key, and I'll just delete it after the meeting. Save doing this, and I'll show you the concept. So if we go to like platform.openai.com, and if I go into, I'll just go to my account or settings, I think, and then I can have my account. So if I go to API keys, there's a few that I've set up, and I have a pretty clean set. But so if you're following along, feel free to go to OpenAI, create this key, and that gives you that the access back and forth. But let me just do this one here. I can set this here, and I'll say for LOL n8n session shared, and it won't cost enough that I'm worried about. But I'll turn it off later tonight, so you'll have to get your own if you want to continue to use it. So I'll create this, and then this is a one-time only, so I can't go back and view it. But I'm going to copy that, and I'll put that in the chat there now.
I notice their API keys are getting really long now. The first ones were
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Scott, for that, that's part of the select credential.
Yes, so let's do that now. So now that we have it, yeah, so you should
I got your link. Yeah.
get the link. Okay, good. So here you'll have an opportunity, it's pretty straightforward. Just enter the API key in here to my clipboard. You'll see it is very long, and everything else is pre-filled in. That's the only thing that you need.
Got it.
So hit save, great. And if you hit save, you should see this connection tested successfully. You should see it being green. And again, you can click outside into the gray area.
Yay.
Got it? Got a green? Good, good.
I do.
Okay. Good. So I'll keep going, but holler if anyone is waiting. So there's a few choices here, but we already kind of in the previous one, message a model is where we are. We're texting message a model. We need to choose the model. And of course, if you guys, I'm sure, are engaged in the AI world, there's a lot of ones to choose from, but let's just do, let's say, in the search part of it, O3, do O3 mini, let's say, is one of the current models. And again, you just have to find out which model is best for yours. Are you looking for cost savings? Are you looking for fast? Are you looking for best? And O3 mini is probably a good combination of all of those. Okay, now once we have this, you have a concept when you're working with the models of a user assistant or a system prompt. And so let's start with our system prompt. And that is an instruction that it's kind of like us giving the general instructions, and then we're going to pass in some other parts of this message here later on. So in this case, the text, yeah, what are we going to instruct it? We're going to, are we working with invoices, or maybe not everyone has, what's everyone kind of starting to do so far on yours? And what should I do? Maybe a classification first or something else? Okay, I can jump in. How about this? Let's do a classification first, because that makes sense. Especially, and then Lori, you're talking about trying to decide on the political things like that in that too. So let's, here in our text, I'm going to call this a system message, is take the provided message and classify it as one of the following. And by the way, I should be able to, oh, this one actually, don't know why it didn't have a pop out. I guess if I did expression, I could pop it out. But okay, so take the message and classify as one of the following. And let's just do one. We'll say invoice accounting related. And then let's do 2 political, POLITICAL, and 3 would be blog post, and 4 would be general or other, let's call it. So, and then reply with just a single word, which is the output hint from the item above. So I'm going to go back and let's give it a hint. So we'll call this output will be invoice. Here we'll say output will be political. We'll say output will be blog, and then output will be other. So in fact, I'll paste this in so everyone doesn't have to retype the same thing. And that's in the chat now. And okay, if I figure out what to do with it, receipts go to, yeah, perfect. And with ads removed, yeah, great ideas. And okay, so with that, I'll click outside, and that's our system. That's the general instruction. But now we need to say, what are you going to do it with? Now is the first time we're going to pass some of this input to the output. I'm going to add a second message called, this one is going to be the user. And the text, we can drag and drop our email message. So now we need to go back here and find that. And we can actually do the subject. So let's see. Oh, here's the payload itself. Is that going to be it? I think so. Well, let's do our subject. We'll do that, and I can hit enter a couple times. You might have noticed it switched to type expression. anything in those doubly curly braces is rendered as a, JavaScript. It's parsed. It's not just a simple string. And I think we're looking for payload, except no snippet. Oh yeah, because it's an attachment. This is a bad example because it would be an attachment and there's almost nothing in it. But oh, you know what? I forgot about something that's a bit tricky. And that is the snippet is only the first X amount of characters. So we would have to do something else, but I think due to time, let's just work with our snippet and then we can come back to this later on. What you'd have to do is you then have a second thing in between that gets the entire message. But okay, so is this making sense so far? We have the instructions up here on what we want to do, and let's actually test this. This is kind of nice. And in this case, you can see the content. Took me a minute to find this, by the way, it's kind of blended in. And it determined that that's of type invoice. So it classified it very well for us. But if each of you on your computers, if you're testing with a different incoming email, it would give a different thing. But notice it's just a single word as the content. And because we asked it to reply with just a single word, you can even really emphasize that with an uppercase just if you wanted. And now you're doing something with it. So again, we can pin that if we want. So we have of type invoice. And okay, we're good to continue on with that. Now's our opportunity to have a decision tree as what we're going to do. So we're going to introduce that and we'll hit the plus. And let me just try something. If I search for the word, search for the word condition and notice, so a switch, programmers would be used to this. By the way, you'll probably find n8n is kind of a, you can tell it's been done by programmers. It has that kind of techie feel to it and even the terminology. So they're using what's called a switch. If you were in Zapier, I think they probably have a more friendly name, decision tree or something. But we're going to use a switch. And a switch lets us branch depending on different criteria. So for example, let's take this last message. You can see, and another interesting concept is you can see these different, everything prior in the workflow would show up as different nodes. So you can see the Gmail trigger is still available, but the OpenAI is the most recent one. And I want to use this content. So I'm going to say if the content is equal to invoice, that's one option. Or I can do this again. If the content is equal to political, or let's do one third one, if the content is equal to other. So, and I'm going to click outside. So I've typed those three options. I'll click outside and you can now see this pretty cool thing. You can see these different choices depending on what you're doing, and we can wire up the next steps. So let me stop for a second, see how everyone's doing.
Wait, how did you get three choices in there? Sorry.
Mm-hmm. So when you add one, every time you add a new routing rule.
Oh, I see. Yes.
And you can make as many as you want. And then it's up to you to be careful that you have a catch-all at the end or things like that to consider. And okay, so I'll keep going on this unless anyone hollers, but let's say that if it's a type invoice, I'm going to do the next thing. And what should we do at this point? We've already talked to AI. We could go to AI again. So let's even try that. It's going to be a little bit easier this time because we have the key already set. So let's message a model. It's already populated. And we can choose which model. Let's do 03 again. And for the text, let's say parse the message and tell me just, and output just the total amount. So that's just one example of what you can do. Lori, for the political stuff, you can write a real nice message, do this, try to infer, which audience is it coming from? Is it highly opinionated, neutral, all that type of stuff you could ask just like you would do. You can practice just in the ChatGPT interface and see how that works. So we're going to make that a system message. And now, notice I don't have any data, but I can execute the previous nodes. And what that does is it executes everything prior So I have test data to work with, which is very helpful. So now the output is, well, I would probably go way back to my email and my snippet. And so I'm going to add that as a new type user message, drag in the snippet. And now I can test this. Let's see, it doesn't have a price to work with. So we'll see what it does. Can't find any total amount. So actually it gave an answer that I'm happy with. But obviously if we had the proper information, we can even download attachments and work with them too. So, but that's good enough for now. The final thing let's do, and then we can come back and iterate over any of these, is let's now send an email. So go to Gmail, and now notice we're in the actions part. We have a lot more to choose from. Let's send a message this time. And so I can do the to, and I'll just do it back to myself. And subject would be invoice pricing summary, or whatever you want to put for a message. You can choose to use HTML or text-based message. I'm just going to use text so it simplifies it a bit. And now you choose what you want for the message. And I know I'm moving pretty quick, but we're almost done, and then I can show it and we can come back and explore over all of this. But if what I did here is I switched from fixed to expression, which gives you more power. And then I expand, I'll click here to expand this, and I've expanded here into the larger one. So now I can write, this is the body of the email. And so this is the calculated total amount for your invoice, which came from the n8n workflow. And then what I'll do is I'll just drag in the content like so. And if you want to put any extra messages or drag any extra variables in, you can do so. And this should get us our message. Yeah, I think, Todd, there might be a chance you're asking API keys available under free, plus, and pro. You actually set up a separate account than your ChatGPT, I think. It might have changed. It's been a while since I've done it. But you might be able to get a certain amount for free each month. I don't know the answer to that, and because I have a separate account for it. But yeah, I don't know the answer right off. We can look at that later on though. Okay, so now I have that message. I can test, and this actually would have tested to my email. So back on my other screen, and let me see if I have that message came in. And here it is. So I'll show it. And there's the message. This is calculated total amount for your invoice, but it couldn't find the total amount. And it automatically has that message there. And if I want to change this, for example, I can actually do something like price : so you have something else. If I were to test that again, the new message will come in. I'll get a chance to see what it has. So there. That is a workflow with classification. We had 2 calls to an API, incoming email, and an outgoing email. Time for your, and there we notice that I can add it with that price. Questions, thoughts?
Cool.
How did you guys make out on yours?
I lost data somewhere along the line. I didn't have an email. It brought in an email in the switch section, but then the next one, it didn't, like there was no email to pass into that next OpenAI step.
I'll tell you why that is, and that's an interesting situation, is only the one that aligns up with your test data will align. So if you hit the test step, and you can, actually there's no pinning for this, then see it's output 0, which is the first one.
Yep.
And okay, yeah, and then that's the one that you can do to test the other 2 to make it easier. I found the only way I really do it is to send a new email and start a second workflow.
Yeah, I had nothing in the output 0 one, even though.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. It's probably just something weird with the email.
Okay, and then Vibe, you're running into something too. Yeah, so try a couple things here. By the way, do you see anything in output 1 or 2, any of the other outputs that says like one item?
I do not.
No?
No.
Okay. And you did the test step?
Yeah, I said, and it executed successfully. In the previous screen, the input screen has an email that has invoice in it.
Okay. What here? Okay, here's what happens for me if I
Oh,
don't. Okay.
I think I know. I've got message content is equal to invoice, and it should have been subject is equal to invoice. I think.
Well, it depends. Actually, if you're pulling it from the OpenAI, it actually should be the content.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't pull it from the Gmail trigger. Pull it from the OpenAI one, message content.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yep.
And if it doesn't match any of the 3 or 4 choices, then you're going to get no results at all. And it doesn't really give you an ugly error. It just doesn't give you any results.
Yep.
So,
that's probably what it is.
okay, Vi, what are you running into? Good. So you have, yeah. Did anyone else get all the way through and actually send in an email? Curious.
I was happy to see yours go.
Okay, good. Yeah. Different thing. Okay. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. Some vibes updating Google Doc. Yeah. Okay. And so this is, and Vicky, do you usually hard stop at the top of the hour? Where are we?
It's up to you. If you're available to keep going, we'll keep going. It's totally your choice.
Yeah. Well, let me do it in such a way then that people don't feel bad leaving. And then I'm in no hurry, so I'm happy to take any questions or explore this further. So what I know, it goes fast, 1 hour to build this, although it's pretty amazing what you can do in an hour.
Yeah.
You know, in this hour, we interfaced with 2 different external tools and got them talking together and did different things. So it's absolutely amazing. But it still takes some time. And so, yeah, Lori.
Yeah, so yeah, just want to make sure I wasn't on mute. So I got really stuck in, where you had that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I couldn't figure out where to put that. Do I put that in instructions? Because I got the 3 mini attached and all that good stuff, and or was there something you kept prompt, but I'm assuming that it was instructions.
That was the 1, 2, 3, 4 in the switch.
And I have a really bad connection, so.
Okay,
I'm sorry?
it is. Was that in the switch instructions?
Parameters, name, O3 mini, description, personal assistant, instructions. Instructions is where I put what you said, the 1, 2, the invoice and blog post and blah, blah, blah.
Okay. And
then I just started listening at that point, which I'll probably just go back and watch it and I'll figure it out. It's hard to see everything so small on this. So.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine. Good. And yeah, so that one, well, I don't see instructions. Mine says the word text if you're in the OpenAI one. Is that what you're thinking?
I'll look back at it, Scott. Thank you. Because I'm sure I just took a misstep and I'll figure it out. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, sounds good. But the text is a general one where you can do it, and then the role is important to fill those in. So
can you go back to where you were?
Sorry.
Can you go back to where you were pulling out the little code snippets for the switch? I didn't know what was going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I'll move through that slower now. And who also said? Yeah, Todd also, right? So what to do? So here's so I'm in the switch, and by the way, you can click on here and rename it. So we'll just say choose what to do. If later on in the workflow, if it's renamed, it's kind of handy. It cleans it up. And mode is rules mode with default. So this first, basically you're matching 2 things. You're matching this first one, and there's a lot of choices, but it defaulted to equal to, which is all we needed today. But you can do greater than, less than, dates, true, false. All of these type of things are available. But in this case, you're comparing 2 things. And I just dragged over in this OpenAI message content. Did you get that? Something similar?
I don't know. Got you zoomed in. What?
Okay.
Dragged over what?
Yeah. If should
Oh, I see.
have, yeah, in the input on the left-hand panel. So basically, the left-hand panel is the prior step. It's what's
Mhm.
coming in. And the right-hand panel is the output afterwards, and the settings are in the middle. So you should have something like, if your schema selected, OpenAI message content. And then you can just drag that across the screen, is how that's intended to work.
Okay, I don't have that. Oh, here we go. I have to actually click in the switch to have that pop up.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
Okay. And this
Thanks, Jackie.
freaking window management is so challenging. All right, so what did you drag from where?
Okay. Yeah, so on the left-hand side of the input, there should be OpenAI
Mhm.
at the top, and then underneath message and content.
Okay. And where do you drag that to?
Drag it into the first one under routing rules. There is the top one that has like the FX expression kind of icon. There's a box there.
Okay.
And then it should be in green, which shows that it's a variable and not just text.
And then you're just filling in what you're calling it.
Yes, right. So
Okay.
that on the second line would be what you're matching it to. So the first line is the variable and the second line is the actual text.
And you can put some kind of a label on it before that code text.
Yes. Let's see the code part. Yeah, you probably don't need to because you can do that on the second one.
Okay.
Oh, what do
I
you?
saw you putting something like price colon in there, and I
Mm,
didn't know where you were doing that at.
yep, gotcha. I did that on the email. So you
Uh,
can you can for sure. You can intermingle. So if I did like a price colon, then here, in fact, it even shows you the result. It would become, in this case, price invoice. So I could
Gotcha.
do something like that. And it makes more sense in like an email body or other variables.
Okay.
Can I mention here that this is where I made a mistake? So there I put invoice with an uppercase I, and then in the previous step I had used invoice with a lowercase I, and that's why I didn't get the content pulled back.
Good call. Good call out. And this one, so that's really good. And so it is case sensitive and I'll show you there's a fix for this one. Down at the bottom, there's options, and you can actually say ignore case.
Good idea.
Yeah. So, but that's a good call. You either have to remember exactly what you type and go back a couple times, or do that.
Now it has sent me an email, so I feel complete.
Sweet. Well done. Congratulations. Yeah. Okay. Well, any other questions? And you're welcome to everyone. So as people are probably leaving, but it's fun joining you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to play around with this to figure out what I'm even trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you've helped a lot with getting me even started. I would have signed up for n8n and never touched it again till my trial was over.
Right. Yeah. Well, the nice thing, and anything we call it, it's kind of the hello world, as programmers would say. You get that first thing, and that's what this is a simple workflow all the way through. And once you see that, the world opens up to you. All of a sudden, you start thinking of all kinds of new ideas.
I used to be really good at Pascal coding in high school. I can think this way, but it just doesn't make any sense right now. This is very similar. A lot of if-then statements. I know my mind works this way, but it's very intimidating to not have any clue how to work the program.
And it is a first, but me too. Going into this, the first time I used it, I'm like, oh, how is the interface working? Everything's overwhelming at first, but it doesn't take you too long, and then you'll get right at home in it.
It seems to me like it's the intermediate between like coding and vibe coding. Then this is in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, because the vibe programming can be completely text based, and this is there's still some more structure to it. One thing I didn't show that's really powerful too is it asks the AI assistant. You can ask really good questions. How do I do something? And this is a smart AI with all of the documentation built into it. So
Oh, great.
yeah, and this is how I learned it first too. So what node could I use to make an AI call to classify something? And not only that, by the way, all the LLMs can do that. They'll have the information. All the big ones nowadays will have n8n already in it. And I find these are even faster yet. So I would just go to the LLM and say, I'm working in n8n right now, and I want to do this. What's the best way to do it? And it can guide you into some pretty cool things.
Well, that'll be helpful.
Yeah.
This little presentation has helped a lot with even needing those initial questions to ask the AI is where I get stumped, because if you don't know enough to even know what the first question to ask is, it's hard to get started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So this has been great. So we might have to have you back for part 2. So what can we do with our other 2 choices?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So keep this one in your backlog, and we'll come back to it.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. And Valerie, sorry, just asked a question. And yeah, what are some other opportunities? And this could be even a part 2. But you dream it. For example, one thing I like is I can record on my phone or on my watch, record a message, send that to Google Drive, pick it up from Google Drive, take the text and classify or do something there. So I can actually brainstorm a message, brainstorm a to-do, a reminder. Sometimes it goes to Notion, sometimes it sends it to email. You can do a decision tree on all those different things, all starting with a recording from your phone or your watch.
Really good idea. I find myself, like when I'm driving, I listen to podcasts, and I'm forever stopping the podcast and saying, Siri, remind me when I get home, and like whatever it is. And then I forget to look at them. But like if this was like texting me those or something, then thank you.
Not only that, you can take a small little thought and expand it too. Say, turn this into a blog idea, or save this for my history, or add this to my to-do, or yeah, all of those things you can start to do. Add it to your calendar, create a calendar event for 5 p.m. and invite such and such a person. I mean, that'll take a little bit more to wire that up, but all of those things are possible.
So we could wire up something like having a conversation with ChatGPT, and when it gives an output of something, it can send it to a Google Doc formatted and freaking, I don't know, images thrown in there or something, make it all pretty. Just from the conversation. Like if, I don't know, if the first step is a chat conversation, that can make it and start doing something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
We just need more hours in the day.
About a year ago, I made it GPT that when I was out running, I could just talk to it so that I could have some ideas. But then I hoped, just like you, Vicki, I would hope that I would get back home and do it, but I never would.
Right.
So it's like I had all these ideas that were just kind of stuck, but now it has end. So that's good.
Every time I pull into my driveway, like 100 reminders pop up on my phone, and it's all those things that I asked myself to remind myself, and I never got around to doing them.
Yeah, there's a lot of overwhelm.
Yeah, even structuring and categorizing that could help a lot too, because it's whatever.
Oh, take my my Apple Notes. Can I pull in Apple Notes to this? I wonder.
Most likely. Yeah. And do you support Apple Notes? Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll check that.
Not currently.
Okay.
Interesting. But I could just pull them all into like a, put them all in a Google Doc and put them all in there or something.
Yeah. Sounds like it that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Or if there's an intermediate.
15 gig accounts so quick.
Yeah.
I talk them out, a lot.
Oh man. Okay. I can see like it's going to make my life easier, but it's going to take a while to set up making my life easier.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a lot of fun, and sometimes it gets frustrating.
Yeah.
You end up on a dead end, and it takes a little bit to figure out. But yeah, just so actually a good strategy is start with easy, so you get a win, and that dopamine, that good feel, you got that win, and then you start to add piece by piece. And if you dead end on a path, consider replacing that with another option, and keep working forward. Is Todd still on the call? I don't see the whole list, but I can look into that question too for the keys.
Todd's there.
Todd's here. Okay. Yeah. What are the keys? Do you want me to check that in? Yeah. Open AI.
I think you have to have a developer account, which
Okay.
doesn't cost anything, but you do have to put in a credit card in case it costs something. Kind of like when you check into a hotel,
Right.
in case you raid the minibar. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. You can use the account for it as long as your account's set up for API usage. So what you would do then, Todd, is use the same account, but then you're going to probably have to enter your credit card. You might have it already, associated it, and you will get a certain amount of free trial ones. And yeah, so if you just start, it's platform.openai.com, and you should be able to hit the gears and your billing, and then here is where you can associate a card with it. And so this is pretty expensive call. No, actually, I don't even know. 4 cents for all the usage. So as I mentioned, it's the chat's got almost nothing. It's only till you really get into scale that you're worried about stuff. And actually, I probably topped this up a while ago. I haven't been using this actively, so might have used probably a fraction of a penny. And here's where you can choose auto charge. Do you automatically increase it? How much do you increase it at a time, and all those type of things.
Okay,
thanks.
I hear Google Gemini and DeepSeek are by far the cheapest for API calls.
Yeah. You said Gemini, DeepSeek, and which one you say?
No, Google Gemini and DeepSeek is all said.
Okay.
Probably Mistral too. I think it's very cheap. Or Llama or
Yes.
Meta or whatever.
Yeah, all of those ones are really good. Yeah, for the big foundational ones, Google Gemini is very, very affordable. OpenAI is the most well-known and very good, but they're not the cheapest. And yeah, DeepSeek is extremely. So Grok with the Q, you see the 2 Groks here. Grok with the Q is also very affordable and very, very fast. Is another one, and it has most of the open source ones. So it kind of lets you choose. It's not the foundational language. It has all the other ones, but lots to choose from, and they're all so good now.
I need to somehow tie in Poe.
Oh yeah, I was just looking to see if Grok was available as a whatever you call it, a node.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Grok with the Q or the K. So Grok with the Q. Yeah. Grok with the K just released their API 2 days ago, and so brand new. So you'll start to see it showing up soon. But Grok with the Q, it is available in n8n. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any more questions for Scott? Any more use cases we want to explore another time?
Oh yeah, Valerie, good point. The templates I covered at the beginning of the meeting, and you might have come in just afterwards. But the templates have lots of great ideas, and a lot of these are way more complex too, already set up. So it's a really good place to explore. Pull those in. Yeah.
I kind of want to see the workflow for Blotato so I can make something that I actually will use.
Oh yeah, what's it called? Blue what?
Blotato.
I don't
Blotato.
Okay, what is Blotato?
It's something Sabrina Romanoff created, and I think she did it with this sort of workflow system, but it's completely opaque to me. I have no idea what's going on. She wrote all the prompts already, and so it gives outputs that I might not have wanted to do. It's mostly marketing stuff, but I would like to see the workflow and then change the prompts.
Okay. Well, so that one, I don't see a template for it, but they are supported with a standard, I assume, a REST endpoint. It would be compatible Some of these ones that aren't here as a choice, it would still work. So yeah, so they don't have their own, but if you do REST or HTTP request, so a lot of these ones would still have options to do it. But unfortunately, there's not a template with the initial inspiration.
And you can change the prompts in Blotado, Charles.
Yeah, but there's so many of them, and I'd have to change it every time, and I'm not going to do that. I want to steal her workflow and then modify it to my purposes, because I do very little marketing, even when I can.
She has videos on YouTube that show exactly how she created it, so you could just follow those.
Yeah, she's got something like 800 hours of videos. There's a lot.
There is such a thing as search.
So one of her videos is.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Vicky. Go ahead.
I was going to say she's very transparent. She'll happily, teach what she knows.
Yeah, it's just a lot of I can understand it better if I see it visually laid out like this workflow thing, and pulling it out of videos is very challenging for me to do.
She does have those workflows in the help docs too for Blotado.
Okay. I'll look at that.
Yeah.
I'm paying her. I might as well get something out of it.
Right. I mean, I know like one of the workflows is a make.com workflow, but I think there's n8n stuff in there as well.
A workflow to copier workflow, some Inception kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I'm trying to create a whole bunch of new religions and products to go with it, or something like that. I mean, it's not quite like that, but I'm building a living novel framework, and there's a lot to do, and I don't even know where to start. So seeing examples of workflows is helpful for me to get ideas. Yeah. Like I've come up with 3 more workflows watching you do these initial ones, so that's helpful.
And there's also another maker on YouTube who's very transparent. His name is n8n. He does a lot of work with n8n, so that's another one worth checking out.
Yeah, I watch Nate a lot.
Okay. Well, cool. Thank you so much for staying over and for all the information. This has been awesome. And we'll definitely have to have you back for the part 2.
Yeah, sounds good.
So if anyone has popped in like from the like just the LinkedIn or the Facebook or Twitter notifications and is not a member of the salon, you can come and join us at thesalon.ai, and there is a link on that website to join the community. I'll just put it in the chat. Salon.ai, and we have a lot of events when I say a lot of events like this, we just started doing events like this. So anything that you want to see demonstrated or anything that you feel like you want to demonstrate, that's all up for grabs. You can just message me in the salon and we would love to have you. So until our next event, I should say we have a meet and greet on Tuesday. It's kind of Tuesday. So every, the 3rd Tuesday of every month, we have a meet and greet, so everyone gets to meet each other. Well, not everyone. The people who turn up get to meet each other. And then the 1st Tuesday of every month, we have an AI Salon Presents, which is a person who's, I want to say outstanding in their field, or a person that we choose to come and present, person or people we can choose to come and present to the audience. So come and join us for any of those things, and we'd love to see you in the salon. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, you're welcome.